everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC, a proud member of the Beautiful Game Network, and brought to you by Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. I'm your host, Phil Bakke. Tonight, I'm joined by Mika Burrell. Mika, how's it going?
It's going well, Phil. How you doing?
Not too shabby. We got a win to discuss, another Locomotive win as the train keeps a rolling this season. So it's can't complain too much.
Yeah, man. Last undefeated team in the league. That's Eastern and Western. So
crazy times to be a Locomotive fan at the moment. Yeah, enjoying a good season so far, and we're joined as well by Christian Canales. Christian, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm conflicted about like the fact that we're getting like attention now, getting mentions and stuff, and like I know we've asked for it, but now that we have it, it's like I don't know.
Well, we've spent the better part of, now we're into our third season, I guess, and we've spent all this time performing well and not really getting the recognition. So I guess now I do worry about the like getting recognition and what impact it might have. Cause we're superstitious. Like,
yeah, no, it's weird because it feels like the media outlets are almost like overcompensating a little bit because they haven't spoken about us really at all, despite having like arguably better stretches than the one we're on right now, or at least on par. So seeing USL Championship like talking about us often, and Diego is a big part of that, I think is kind of weird. I don't read any of them though, because I'm like, I don't want to like buy into this, watch the team and make my own impressions.
Well, and we'll start. Go for it, Christian.
I was gonna say, I guess that's fair. We haven't really had like a besides the like footballing success, we haven't really had like a storyline, and so Diego provides that. I guess is probably a pretty good reason why we're getting this attention.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you guys mentioned that because I kind of had that as my talking point on Diego later, and I think we'll dive into Diego's run, obviously, a little bit as part of our review of the 2-1 win over Monarchs. We've also got a game coming up against RGV, but not for quite a while, actually. 9 days away from the RGV match, and they play Tulsa in between, so it'll be a pretty early preview. But we also got some listener questions, and we'll review those. But first and foremost, Christian, last week we skipped your question segment, and we won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, there was outrage, if I dare say. No, but it was a slight oversight, but we've got one this week. And just as a disclosure, like I told you guys beginning, usually I like to try and catch you guys off guard, but this one might have been a little bit harder to think of, so I gave him a few minutes to think about it beforehand. But this week I'm wondering what fictional character, this can be from TV, books, movies, comics, whatever you're into, what fictional character is awesome in their respective medium, the great character or whatever, but would just really be terrible to actually spend time with in your reality, not their reality, but your reality.
I'm really curious about this one, about what you're gonna say, Mika.
Really? I feel like you're more of the TV/movie aficionado, so I was thinking of yours first, but assuming I've taken this question the right way, I think it's going to be Harry Potter. Like, the guy is obviously awesome and like the protagonist in his world, but honestly, being his friend is fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
That's such a good answer. He just like...
You know what I mean? Like, you have to really be literally a ride or die. Like, you might actually die to be his friend. So...
Yeah. And I mean, just the idea of a character who's like at once a nerd and a jock, that's really tough to cope with.
That's true, because he's like a Quidditch all-star, but also like mad smart. Not like, Hermione levels, but
right.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a frustrating guy to hang out with.
Well, and again, just like dangerous. Like I'm not about all that. Like I'm not a ride or die. I'm just gonna put that out there.
For no one.
That's such a that's a really good answer. Mine, I was definitely thinking like more. I guess my mind like went a certain way. Specifically, it went to like the realist. So I was thinking of, and I think in 2021, like this answer is probably obvious, but he was so hugely popular and like idolized throughout the run of this TV show. But Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother, like, canceled.
Problematic AF.
Canceled.
Yep.
Oh my god, I wish I understood that.
So it's Neil Patrick Harris's character from How I Met Your Mother, and he's like a complete womanizer, just like, and has all of these like bro-centered like mantras and everything that in the mid 2000s were right in line with like how dudes acted, and now he would be. I think part of the joke of the show is that he is he's annoying, or he's not actually cool. Like he just like kind of plays himself up. But nowadays, like he would actually be just fully canceled.
It'd be like toxic masculinity.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm saying probably Barney Stinson.
Yeah, for me, so I really like Parks and Rec. And my favorite character from that show is Ron Swanson. And I think he's a great character, but like, I don't know, such a wet blanket. I don't think that I would want to be his friend. I would just have an awful time if I had to work with him, I think.
That's a good shout. He is, not exactly. And another one that like at the time, people really like latched on to his particular brand of masculinity, which was like for the show comically over the top, but people like latched on to that, like, carnivore, whatever, like libertarian vibe that he gave, not realizing that like he's meant to be like a meme.
Good answers, guys. Good answers.
I like think about that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, as we move into the meat, before we get into the review of how Locomotive played out in Utah, and beyond, there's a little bit of breaking news today in that MLS has announced they're dipping their toes into the lower league waters with a third tier, whatever that means, in the U.S. League, which will primarily be made up of MLS2 sides, but will also welcome independent sides at the same level as USL League One. And they're set to launch that league in 2022. What did you guys make, one, of MLS clearly breaking from USL in the sense that like their two teams likely aren't going to continue, which I think has been speculated on in the past, but also now setting up their own lower division league that could, I guess, in theory, draw from clubs that are currently playing in USL Championship or League One.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, the MLS two sides have kind of been on the way out, so this seemed like the natural progression of that. So it's not all that surprising. And of course, Jeff Reuter and Pablo Mara on The Athletic broke this back at the beginning of the month, so it's not like a huge shock or anything by now. But I understand the rationale that's given, which is, from MLS perspective, that they would like to have an infrastructure that allows them to develop their players and not really worry so much about results, because in USL, I mean, it is competitive, it's not just about development. Like clubs like us, independent clubs like Locomotive and, Phoenix Rising, New Mexico United, all those kind of clubs, they do care about winning. And so that's kind of the distinction that MLS makes in justifying, the setup of this league. And I understand that, and that makes sense. But realistically, practically speaking, I'm not convinced that MLS bound players or players that could potentially reach that level or maybe even beyond would benefit so much from a D1 or a USL 1 D3 league, because yes, I understand it's about, developing players and stuff, but I think players do develop from being in competitive environments and just, playing them against other kids, or people at that level. I don't really know how much that really gives you in terms of player development. I mean, you see that in Europe sometimes, there are players that don't benefit from like U23 football. They need to go out on loan with a first team and play with men, so that's kind of how I see it. I see the rationale for sure on paper, but I have doubts about whether that's actually the best thing for players who want to play at the highest levels.
Yeah, and I mean, this sounds super cynical, but like in the end, I feel like this is just about them having more control over their own thing. Maybe there's like a financial thing to it too, with their own league. They can, cook the numbers, in a way that makes things that's beneficial for MLS, like the entity, instead of like soccer, the game, or the players themselves. So yeah, I mean, it's a cynical take, but I don't feel like there's a real benefit to it as far as the game or the players themselves.
Well, and they are going to be accepting, expansion fees for independent clubs that want to join. So
yeah,
not that cynical, I don't think, Christian.
I think the concern that I have about this is based around the fact that I think MLS has spent a good amount of time between, and this will be a little bit of, this fight in the lower leagues kind of predates the modern USL and Locomotive for sure. For those who aren't like up to speed with the soccer wars, as they're called, wars obviously spelled with a Z. There's all of these league competitions like have been going on for a long time, and they've mainly taken place in like the boardroom or the courtroom, like more so than on the field. MLS is still, and US Soccer are still engaged in a lawsuit with the NASL, which ceased operations now like over 3 years ago. And so, yeah, there's a lot of like very odd dynamics to this, and without getting like overly deep into it, my big thing is that MLS is constantly continuing to creep and encroach on like new areas. And this to me just reeks of establishing something so that they can start to like spread out and subordinate the lower leagues into MLS's minor leagues. Like in their ideal setup, MLS's like pyramid, quote unquote, would be minor league baseball. Like that is what they want to do in a perfect world. I'm not saying that they will do it. I'm not saying they'll be successful necessarily. And I hope that the independent teams like see the benefit of remaining competitive in like their own competition. But I do worry about the independent clubs in USL Championship eventually just kind of being swallowed by the encroaching freaking Lovecraftian Cthulhu that is MLS.
That's some powerful imagery, Phil. Like, it's not even growth. It's like metastasizing. Like, that's what you sound like MLS is doing. And I don't disagree. I mean, you know, my gripes with it were with like the extreme doubts over whether this we want to develop players thing is legit. I think it is couched in that and trying to just put their fingers everywhere where, hey, that looks cool. I'm going to set up MLS there. Like, okay. I
think MLS wants to develop players like McDonald's wants to develop hamburgers. Like that's what I think they want to have more places that develop their brand of hamburgers. Like this is a real estate game at the end of the day. And, that's my even more extremely cynical take about MLS and their minor league. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out and we'll see who exactly joins. I think the USL has a sturdy enough structure at the moment and has enough benefit for the clubs to want to stay, but we'll see how it actually pans out as this actually takes shape. And I mean, this is all assuming that they actually get sanctioning by the federation at D3, which is not necessarily a given. I mean, probably, but anyways, we'll keep an eye on MLS's lower league division and as it continues to take shape. But in the meantime, we have actual games to talk about, and first and foremost, the win against Real Monarchs. Locomotive go to Utah, get a 2-1 win. And this one started out, from the lineup announcement, we saw familiar shape, pretty familiar personnel, but there was a surprise in that we had expected Dylan to start this one, and Mark A. Ponce on Twitter actually asked the question, do we know why Mahrez was out of the lineup Friday? And Mikka, we do, actually.
Yeah, he did travel, but it's our understanding that he was feeling very ill, very under the weather. I mean, not COVID-19 related as far as we can tell, but who knows? He just wasn't feeling very well, and so it was kind of a last-minute switch. And so he came out of the lineup for that reason. Hopefully he's on the mend now, but yeah, that's kind of what happened there.
That meant that Diego Luna got another start in that number 10 position. We also saw the return of Mishak Jerome, who we sort of like lightheartedly joked about. He went on international duty with Haiti. He was back for this one, partnering Yuma in central defense. And yeah, it was, but otherwise not a ton of shocks in this lineup. Christian, we've seen a lot of these players emerge as, more or less the first choice 11.
Yeah. It's really nice, I guess, convenient to be able to, even with a player, with the stature of Dylan on our team, not able to play at a minute's notice, we can just throw Diego in there and really feel really comfortable about it at this point now. It's a good feeling to have. I kind of miss Banger back there, though. He had a good stretch.
Yeah. No, it's definitely no disrespect to Matt Bainer that Mishak goes straight back into the squad. Obviously, I think Mark trusts Yuma and Mishak back there, but the match kicks off, like this lineup takes the field, and Mikka, it's not that long, a nice sequence. Lots of passes strung together in the opening minute, and once again, Locomotive find themselves 1-0 up within the opening seconds of the match, essentially. and a long-awaited goal scorer on the end of this one as well.
Yes, hallelujah. Josué Gomez opens his account finally with a really nice header. But like you said, the build up to it was fantastic. Diego Luna with the Iniesta assist, the hockey assist. He loves that chip ball to the back post, and he does it so well. And we it's a very small sample size again, but like he's playing very well. And I wonder if that's one of if we see that become one of his like signature moves, because I think on the goal that he assists later on, it is kind of similar, like a high ball to a target. It's not random. So Luna starts the move really, and then Rebion has a really good header pass into Josué's path, and he's able to get up high and put it away. And I mean, I'm sure it's a huge weight off his shoulders. We've seen the body language over the past couple games, and he's looked very disappointed. Even some of our listeners and the fans have seen Mark pull Josué aside after games and after missed chances and things like that to kind of talk to the player and let him know, hey, you're still in my plans. You're gonna score. Just keep playing. And it's nice. It's nice. I mean, does it now lead to a rich vein of form? Obviously, that remains to be seen. But just to get that first one's really good.
Yeah, he. What's the Brazilian phrase? Like shook the salt off, or whatever. Like after a long scoreless drought or a goalless drought. But Christian, I mean, this fast start and this high intensity beginning to games, especially recently, do you think this is part of their energy, like just coming out of the locker room, or do you think this is what Mark has always thought of it, especially for away games, like grab that goal and then try to kind of manage the game a little bit from there?
Yeah, I don't think the fact that we're scoring these early is really anything different. I think it's just one of those things that they're just happening to go in for us now. Maybe not first minute. That's been kind of interesting. Because the other one was a home game anyways, against
right.
RGV. So I think it's just a matter of the luck going our way a little bit. So yeah, it's been interesting to see. I wish that more often it would be followed by a second goal. This Friday's game was just our second multi-goal outing of the season so far, 2 out of 7. So I wish that more often we could follow these quick starts with another goal. But I'll take it if it gets us energetic early. Because I know a lot of what we've seen a lot of other times is that we don't really come into the game, until maybe about the 15th minute a lot of times. So
sure.
If this is able to give us an early wake up, then that's better for us. I want to say about the goal too, kind of what you were saying about this being like Diego's kind of like signature move. That's also it. This goal was almost exactly the United goal. A ball to the far post, headed into the box, and then someone getting on the end of it there. So it was really, it has like a deja vu moment for a little bit, and glad Gomez scored, and it seemed like he like flew to get that header. It reminded me of like Angels in the outfield. It literally looked like someone was like carrying him, because he out jumped that guy by like 4 or 5 inches. He definitely wanted that ball more.
Ronaldo against Sampdoria.
Yeah, like hangs in the air. No, that actually really stuck out to me as well about this goal. Is it felt like, I mean, as much as Locomotive fans have wanted Aron to get off the mark and get back into into his goal scoring form, I think that goal was just demonstrative of how much he wanted it as well. And as you said, like sometimes that desire shows through, and in that moment when he rises to head home, I think it definitely showed. The other part of it being that I love the fact about this goal in particular. Gomez scores in the 58 seconds into the game. And I think my favorite part is that Real Monarchs don't have any meaningful possession from kickoff to the goal. Like, there's no point where they really, like, for 58 seconds, they didn't really touch the ball in a meaningful way. And I think psychologically, like, that is so powerful as well from a team to come out of the blocks like that and just say, like, not only are you not getting close to us, but we're going a goal up without you even having a possession. And that just, I think it set the tone for what was, for the most part, a pretty comfortable 90 minutes from Locomotive, even if it wasn't as comfortable in the scoreline as maybe it should have been, which has been kind of a common thread. Like, not just this season, but maybe all of our seasons, where there have been a lot of performances where maybe we haven't gotten the goals we scored. But the difference about this team is we are getting the wins now.
It does seem like we are trying to strike a better balance between staying true to our possession principles and getting results and getting goals, because we do actually end up with less possession overall. In this one, and I harken back to Austin Bold, kind of same situation there, and other matches, I'm sure, where we had a little bit less of the ball, but we're still undefeated. So I'm glad to see it. I think ideally we would, continue to like dominate the ball most days, most games, rather than not. But if we're getting results with it and still not really getting overrun or anything like that, then I think it's a good balance to strike. For the most part, pretty comfortable. Of course, I hate when we concede when we ruin the clean sheet at the last moment. Like, that's one of my biggest soccer pet peeves.
Yeah. It's, to be fair, this one wasn't, I don't feel like it was our fault. I don't know if we're going to get to
there's nothing you can really do about it, but also, like, fouling in that area at that time is like, there must have been some leg issues at that point.
Yeah.
Some tiredness. So,
well, the other goal for Locomotive comes obviously much later in the second half, but the strike itself, Macca King off a set piece eventually comes to him, and the Shark on Twitter at Ramos5173 asked, will there be a trademark in the coming days for Toey Toe Banger for Macca King? And will he keep on the scoring run he's found himself on from right back?
That's an interesting one. How did you come up with that?
The Toey Toe Banger?
Is that like something, is that a reference I'm not getting?
Yeah. Did you see the like mic'd up video they did of him earlier in the week?
No.
They like mic'd him up at practice.
I'll get the soundbite queued up here.
Yeah, so it was a really, you need to check it out, Mikka.
Is that what it's from? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm lost in the
he said in practice, but it was entertaining. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
Okay.
When you watch, I hope they do it more often. I love those things with any sport when they have the players or the refs mic'd up. That's like my favorite sports clips to look at.
Well, with that being said, I hope he does trademark it then, but I think that would be pretty amazing if he continues to score goals. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't see it. Like, I just don't feel like that's what our right backs do. I think it's been just been in the right place at the right time lately, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think this one in particular, there's a really interesting like moment where, because of the lack of crowd noise at Zions Bank Stadium, you could hear the shouts from the touchline much clearer. And I think like where the mics were and where the cameras were, it lent itself to that. As the corner comes in for Locomotive, someone from Real Monarchs bench is screaming that someone's being held. There's a foul. Like, the ref needs to call a foul. And it almost felt like for a split second, all of Real Monarchs players just kind of assumed that the ref was going to give a foul. And so it falls to Macca King, and he just hits it, because he's in acres of space because no one went to close him down. And I think that split second literally bought us a goal, because they literally, no one in blue for Real Monarchs is trying to close him down or win the ball, because I think they all just assume that a foul is going to be given. And there wasn't really anything in that decision. I think it was like a hopeful shout from the touchline, and it ends up in a goal for Locomotive.
Never trust these pro refs, even if there was a foul. Never trust them to make the call.
Yeah, that is, do that at your peril, as Real Monarchs did. I have to give a shout out though to the cross, to the corner, because that high deep ball is just so like aesthetically pleasing, and for it to actually end up in like a really well taken goal at that far post is really nice. So I'd like to think it's on purpose. I like to think these are patterns of play that we work on and that Diego likes to do, because he's done them quite a few times now. So again, just tangible impact from the young man, and really he's just writing his legend as he goes.
Yeah, he's been great.
It's been just interesting watching Diego play. I know when we interviewed Mark at last season, one of the questions that someone had asked me to ask him was like, who is like the guy on our squad? Reference, of course. I asked, who's Kobe, who's LeBron on our team, and there's not an answer at that point last year, but I think it's becoming Diego, in that, not that he's like the face of the league or anything like that, but what the same person that asked me that question, what I noticed is like every time that Diego touches the ball, you get a feeling that something might happen, and you can't really say that about anyone else on the team. Not that they're not skilled, but like when Nick gets the ball, yeah, he can do great things, but you don't say, oh man, like a goal might come out of this move, or when Aaron gets the ball, or when even Dylan, all very skilled, but you don't get the feeling that, oh, something's gonna happen here, like keep your eyes open. So that's just been another element that we've never had before.
Yeah, I think to put that in like world football terms, I mean, he's like the opposite of a system player, like one that you can look to for moments of inspiration, moments of magic. Currently the guy doing that right now is Jack Grealish. You could even say like Xherdan Shaqiri, Alexis Sanchez in his prime, like players like that, right? That, they'll play for the team, but also they will take the game by the scruff of the neck and pull something out of the hat and just do something incredible, whether that's a goal or setting somebody up or going on a long mazy run. And Diego certainly seems like one of those kind of players. I don't know if it's because our team's so well settled and so he stands out in that way, being new, being young, being kind of fearless.
Sure.
But whatever it is, it's really exciting to watch. And it's just nice to have someone that can like just crack the game open when things seem very stale, because we've certainly had our fill of games like that where, these patterns of play are just kind of getting recycled and nothing's really happening. And we end up in these draws and things like that, especially in our first two seasons. It's fun. I mean, and again, at the end of the day, we watch it to be entertained, and he certainly puts on a show.
Yeah, I think the thing that's been so interesting about Diego and his emergence within this team is the fact that I think a lot of times when guys burst on the scene, they're bursting on the scene in terms of like being on the end of scoring goals, which obviously Diego has done. But you look at these moments as isolated and, he's on a little bit of a good vein of form. He's kind of like in the right place at the right time right now. That, how sustainable is it, I guess, is like what you look at. And what's been so impressive about Diego is that the way he's impressed across these games has not been the same in every game. Like, it's been different aspects of what he's brought to the team that have been so impressive, where yes, he gets his first professional goal with, a good header, late run, just good instincts. But a lot of what impressed about his impact in this game was him occupying space and dropping into areas and making himself available to receive the ball, turning past people. Like, I think that's one of the things that stuck out to me the most is his intelligence when he receives the ball. It's like and there are, obviously, like, there are plenty of footballers in world football that are capable of this, but the way that he senses where people are around him, and I think we spoke about it, like his ability to carry the ball through midfield and just his seeming inability to have the ball taken off him is so impressive for a kid his age. And in this game in particular, he just is constantly demonstrating his vision, not just in those tight spaces, but of the whole field, and his ability to pick out a pass and unlock a defense with a single pass. It's still a small sample size, but the sample size grows not just by the game, but by the touch. Like, by each time he receives the ball, you just get another data point of, okay, this kid is not, like, this is not a fluke. This is not some kid just doing his best out there and ending up in the right place at the right time. Like, he just makes extremely good decisions and has unbelievable awareness of what is going on all around the field for a kid that is 17 years old. And so, yeah, I'm as much as you want to, like, avoid the hype and don't want to get caught up in the Luna mania. It's a little tough not to, because he just keeps giving us reasons to be excited. And it's not just like these sort of flash in the pan moments. He's putting in consistent performances across, 60, 70, 80 minutes. And, he put in another great one, and an assist and a hockey assist. Could
have been 2 assists if Nick's screamer goes in off the crossbar.
Yeah. Shout out to Nick Ross, by the way, again, he played an absolute blinder in this game and deserved a goal, but like, he was also unbelievable for his appearance, and could have been man of the match if he scores that goal. He'd almost certainly have been rated as the top player of the game. But
I just love that he's taking these shots now. Like, there's that one in the 25th minute, and there was one like early in the second half where it's point blank, but it's like he's doing those things, and I really like that.
Yeah, Nick was definitely another bright spot for the team, and all things considered, the real bright spot for this team is another 3 points in the bag. It wasn't perfect by any stretch, and away performances for Locomotive have gotten tricky at times. The main standout moment in terms of areas to improve, the bad, and maybe a moment with implications for the next game. Well, definitely with implications for the next game is Brian Rebellon was sent off late on in this one for kicking out against Bonse of Real Monarchs. And without having to belabor it too much, I mean, it is a red, right?
All day.
Yeah,
All day.
Unfortunately.
It's just like bad decision making. Like, he's one of the guys that, like, is just supposed to be better than that. Obviously, you don't want any of our players, getting a red for something so unnecessary like that. But just me personally, I expect much better from a player like him.
Yeah, it was a pretty hefty challenge that leads to it from Bonce, I think it was, and Brian clearly just reacts. I don't know if I would say instinctively, but certainly recklessly, putting the boot out, and it's a red card. It's pretty clear. And honestly, it's going to could have implications on the way that we play. I mean, just this season in games where Brian has not started, we have not won. So Sporting Kansas City,
Wow.
switchbacks, those draws, he did not start those. He did get minutes, but he didn't start. And last season, some of our big losses, like to New Mexico United, Phoenix, he got minimal minutes or didn't play. So, he's a very important cog in the midfield machine, and for him to miss out because of his own doing is really unfortunate.
Yeah, and like you guys said, it's a reaction from Brian to a pretty poor challenge from Bonce on Chapa Herrera. That it's one of those moments where it's frustrating for a number of reasons, because I think play should have stopped for Bonce to be booked. For the challenge on Chapa. On a different day, Bonce is actually sent off because he catches Chapa with his studs about knee height, which, on a different day, that's a red. And we're not even talking about a Brian challenge because it never had the chance to happen. But as a player, if the referee's not given it, there's nothing to be gained from the retaliation. Like, there's no winning in the retaliation, and Brian lets the heat of the moment get to him, unfortunately, and it could be Locomotive that pay the price with his absence against RGV for that straight red. I guess the concern, and I'm not sure. I guess I would have to dive into USL rules, but is it just the one game for the straight red, or do they have like violent conduct, like 3-game suspensions? Because that could be really bad. And that was something that I hadn't thought about until literally as I was speaking.
I don't know. Now I need to look this up.
Yeah, give me like half a second real quick. Because
I guess I should have looked up the discipline report.
Yeah, I know that I don't know. This is what I'm trying to look up, but I think Patino from San Antonio has a multi-game suspension.
So serious foul play or violent conduct per IFAB definitions is a red card. A 4-game minimum, $100 fine, first offense fine increases with subsequent offenses. So, yeet.
Yeah, that could be a problem. Especially if his suspension is longer than a game. Yeah, I don't love it, and it is 100% self-inflicted, unfortunately. Just a moment of madness from Brian in what was otherwise like a pretty solid performance. I thought not his best performance by any stretch, but definitely a otherwise good performance. But we'll see how long Locomotive have to cope without Brian in midfield, and Chapa could be the one to immediately benefit in terms of playing time.
Yeah, so Patino was suspended for 3 games for his violent conduct in Colorado, or against Colorado, so might be in for similar. I don't know if all violent conduct is created equal.
Well, I don't know if the rules I was reading were like super up to date, but 3 games sounds about standard. So
yeah. So I just Patino's was like off the field, so I don't know if that makes a difference. If I was trying to
and it was like legit brawling.
Yeah. So that would be like my appeal if I was trying to do that. But I don't know if that holds weight.
Well, I guess we'll find out sooner than later. Well, we may not find out for a while, as our next game isn't for a while. But the other things in this one, as we said, goal scoring still remains a little bit of a concern, and this is only being the second multi-goal game of the year. It sparked a question from @Ebow27. How can we get our strikers more involved? Lucho at times last game looked frustrated and looked especially so when he came off. What do you guys make of our striker situation, and maybe Lucho in particular? As we had another question from @Mark A. Ponce, is Lucho going to be a reliable 9? What do you guys make of Lucho's inability to really get going as a striker, despite looking pretty good in some of our performances so far? But obviously, unable to really get in that goal scoring form, aside from that goal against RGV.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I certainly take the point that the listeners are making with, concerns about the reliability, having only scored that one goal. But in this one, Lucho had 50 touches, which is the most that he's had in a game in a Locomotive shirt. One more than Diego Luna, actually, and almost twice as many as Josue Aron Gomez. So, maybe the touches weren't where we'd like them to be. I think we've expressed concerns in the past about Lucho coming back a lot, trying to start moves, and we don't know if that's enforced by the fact that he feels isolated from the ball and isolated from the play, or if Mark is trying to have him play kind of like a center forward, false 9 kind of role at times. We know the strikers are expected to press and all that kind of thing, so maybe it's not as unnatural as one might think, but I think for him in particular, for Lucho, it's about gaining rhythm. I mean, he told us in the preseason that he relies a lot on having an understanding with his teammates to score goals, and that's not something that comes overnight, to be fair. And we know that he joined Lep late. Not trying to make excuses for him. I'm just trying to, I guess, explain why a player of his obvious quality is not banging them in. It's got to be some of those factors, because it's not for a lack of talent. I mean, when he's on the team sheet, I'm happy about it. Let's put it that way. I would rather him than some of the other choices that we have to start. He's not someone that I'd say, oh, drop him now, because he offers a lot more than the goal scoring. But I mean, I get it. That's what he's been bought for, and so I think it's a little early to be too concerned, because it does look like he's starting to get a bit more of an understanding. But I do understand the questions about it.
Is it possible that just over what we've seen over the last 2 years up to this point, do nines just, like a true number 9, does that just not work here? I don't know if that's a thing. We didn't have I guess the closest thing we had was Jerome in the first year.
Yeah.
But then that stopped, for whatever reason, that well dried up, and then we didn't have it last year. And I don't know if Lomas could have been that, or he knew that he wasn't going to be that, and that's why he wanted to leave, before play started again. So I don't know, is that possible, that just there isn't not space, but you just don't see a 9 or a striker play as like a traditional 9 in the way that we play?
No, I think there is something to be said about that, because, well, when you say 9, I take it to mean like a penalty box predator, like that's it, like hanging around, goal hanging, and getting those scraps, finishing. A la Leandro Caijo, who is, good squad player, but he's not exactly gone off in the way that we might have expected. I mean, and he was a record goal scorer at FC Juarez, so I think there is something to say about that. With Lucho, that's why I think he's a bit different, because I don't think he's just that. I don't think he's just that penalty box merchant, if you will. Sure. I think he does offer a lot more. He's probably one of the better dribblers in the side, actually, as far as we've seen. So Yeah, there is something to that. And I think that strikers are being asked to do things that they might not do in other teams where it's like, no, I just need you hanging around the penalty area. I mean, Lucho's coming back. He's tracking runners. He's dribbling. He's creating. I think he does have an assist or two, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I think there is something to that, you know, those players that hang in and around the penalty spot are not necessarily going to thrive in Locomotive's system.
I mean, I think Lucho is extremely unlucky to not come away with this game with a goal. I think he has that chance from a kind of narrow angle in the first half that Putna gets down well to his right to save. And then he kind of takes a gamble when he was through on goal in the second half. He cuts inside and he kind of takes a gamble on Putna cheating to one side versus the other, and Putna kind of stays home and saves a shot that was fairly central. But I didn't get the vibe from this particular game that Lucho was frustrated or as frustrated with like the service, because I think that could have been a gripe in past games where, hey, he's not really getting the ball that much and he's having to drop really deep and he's not really getting the ball in goal scoring positions. I mean, I think his frustration would have been born more so out of his own finishing. And because he knows that he's capable of scoring those. But I mean, he's getting into the right areas. He makes good decisions. And like you said, technically he's very gifted. So I wouldn't anticipate it being a season long thing of, oh, like, why isn't Lucho scoring? Cause I really do think it's just a matter of time. And in this one, I think it's, you know, good goalkeeping that kept him out rather than anything that we were doing particularly like poorly or anything like that. Well, you guys mentioned it before, but the last like bad note is obviously the clean sheet evaporates in the waning moments of this one. But we do have to give like minor props to Alowski, who scores a kind of ridiculous free kick. Yeah, it's a good distance and all of that stuff, but to put it into the top corner, curling kind of in the wrong direction, I guess, if that makes sense, and past Logan Ketterer of all people, it's a really good free kick.
Oh, I mean, there's absolutely nothing Logan's doing about that. And to be fair to him, he does try to get up high to that far corner, and it's just futile. I blame my mom for this goal. My mom knows nothing about soccer, but she like walked past while I was watching, and she sees them lining it up, and she's like, "Oh, they're gonna score." And like my mom like talks shit sometimes, you know, just to like rib me, but she's like, "Oh, they're gonna score" as they're lining it up, and I'm like, "It's like the 90th minute. Stop!" And they fucking scored, and I was like, "Go away."
Bruja.
So yeah, I blame her. Sorry, guys, it's her fault.
Yeah, I mean, frustrating to miss out on a clean sheet, but overall, like a good performance.
If you want to lose the clean sheet, lose it like that with like a freaking screamer where there's nothing you can do about it, I guess. But yeah,
that is such a Locomotive thing to do, though. Like, we have such problems, I know, and we were talking about the recognition piece and all of these things, but like goals of the week, saves of the week, all this stuff, like we have a hell of a time getting nominated for this sort of thing, and it is such a Locomotive thing to play really well across 90 minutes and still give up a goal that will likely end up in the goal of the week running.
If you only watched Goal of the Week, you'd think we're a horrible team. Yes.
They never score one. They only get scored against. Like, yeah. It's literally been since Edson against against Tacoma. That was the last time.
God.
I mean, I'm sure we've been nominated since then, but definitely the last time we won goal of the week, I'm sure.
And those goal of the week nominees are out, and thankfully that was not up there. So.
Oh, it wasn't?
Nope.
Oh, wow. I feel for Olaski because
he should have been.
It should have been.
Well, good. We can pretend like it never happened.
That was a banger. The thing I've noticed is like I feel like the league office also goes like heavy East Coast, heavy West Coast when it comes to goal of the week. It'll be like there'll be a week where there's not a single goal from the Eastern Conference in the goal of the week running, and then vice versa. Like it's like they're watching one conference per week, and they're like, we couldn't pay attention to both.
Right.
There's too many teams. Who did this?
Nicholas Murray couldn't read all the Opta stat sheets.
Oh, Nicholas. Writing about Diego Luna now, so we've been
weird times. Weird times.
Who can even believe it? Well, guys, we're almost to the end of our review, so y'all know what time it is.
Seriously Loco Shithouse 11.
The Shithouse 11. Guys, this one is we're walking a tightrope here because we often like to target opposition players, but a Locomotive player saw red in this one. Who's the Shithouse? It's like a game of Where's Waldo, like spot the Shithouse.
I mean, Brian, I'm sorry, man. But if you kick someone and get sent off, you have to come. I mean, because we'd just be totally biased if he didn't come in, right? I mean, I guess is a shout because he escapes discipline.
Yeah,
but that kick is clear as day on the replay.
Yeah.
So it could be either of them, I suppose.
I'm going to make Phil do a tiebreaker. I'm going to say Bonse and be biased. I'll make Phil do the tiebreak.
So coming into this, I thought Bonse as well, and only because of the way that he obviously flies into the challenge against Chapa. He knows that he did wrong. Chapa's left in a heap. He gets up and runs towards the ball, and then had the audacity to then or not the audacity, because he does get kicked, but he commits a borderline red card infraction and then sprints to the ball and then draws a red card because his reaction to getting kicked is as much of the reason that Brian ends up getting sent off as anything.
So he does smash Brian, to be fair.
Yes, it was a foul.
It was heavy
when he hit Brian too.
Yeah. Oh, and it would have been a foul. So yeah, I mean, in theory, he could have had 3 yellow cards in one.
I guess you've talked me into it.
So I do think Bonse's the shithouse because he does get away with it as well
and gets a advantage for his team. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. No, so Brian unfortunately is the.
Brian's not in the shithouse. He's in the doghouse.
Yeah. He's the unfortunate victim of the shithousery.
That's true. Yeah.
And he plays the fool this week, unfortunately. But yeah.
Fair.
So I'm trying to see where that even. would have put us. There was a period of time where, so Ibrahim Bonse, welcome to the Shithouse 11. There was a period of time in this game where I thought it was going to be the younger Weehan, Charlie Weehan, because he was just like complaining a lot, and chirping a lot, for not having a ton of impact. So I thought it was going to be him, but Bonse takes the cake for me.
So are there two sets of brothers on this team? Is goal scorer Iloski related to Orange County Iloski?
Milan Iloski. Yeah, and he used to be on LA Galaxy too, right?
Yeah, Galaxy.
Brian Iloski.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Brian, and they also have another brother, Eric, who, and
Is he in the league too?
They're all professional soccer players.
Where does Eric play?
His name
Las
is
Vegas.
Oh. His name is red on Wikipedia, so
Oh,
no
whack.
link.
FotMob has him in Vegas.
Yep.
Okay.
They all played at UCLA as well. So we will be back to talk the RGV game here in a second after a quick break. Welcome back, everybody, to Seriously Loco. Guys, we've got a ways to go before Locomotive take on RGV, but we do need to preview the match. RGV coming off of a 1-1 draw against San Antonio FC. Justin Dillon had the opening goal in that. Christian Sordo equalized just a few minutes later, and this one ends 1-1. But I mean, did you guys get a chance to watch this match or get see how it went down? Because from what I could tell in seeing snippets of it, and then obviously, mostly following just online, seemed like Toros had the better of this one, and that SAFC might have been a little bit lucky with the draw.
Absolutely. I caught like the last 30 minutes, I think, of this one, and I think that RGV definitely deserved a goal at the end and to get the 3 points. And that's not my bias talking. I really think that they could have had this win, because they're still playing really good soccer this far into the season. So they every week they continue to show that they are not a fluke.
Yeah, I think there's something about this team, and it's something that's kind of stuck out to me this season, is RGV in every game that I've watched of them, minus the game against El Paso, they've looked well put together, dangerous, just really solidly drilled, quality in possession, and really, Locomotive are the only team to make them look human, or not human, but to make them look, I guess, bad this year. They haven't really played a bad game, except that game against Locomotive, where they really didn't even get out of first gear. Yeah,
and that was when we hosted them. I think RGV are very, I don't want to say reliant, but I mean, they make the most of their home field advantage at HEB Park. 4 of their wins have come, at HEB Park, one loss at home. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And I mean, by all means, there's, make your home a fortress, and they certainly do. It's a tough place to play, as we know, and I dread those road trips. And we will be, visiting them. So it's going to be terrible and humid, and yeah. But I think that just has to do with the fact that we hosted them, and it's just a bit different for them on the road. But I mean, they're the team to beat right now. They lead the Mountain Division, as you said, 17 points, and it's us right behind them. So I think they have a game against Tulsa before hosting us, so
Yeah.
that may give us an advantage. We've obviously had this like really crazy run in, and now we're getting to rest a little bit more, and the boys are getting to kind of train and have more rest and recovery days. So that may give us an advantage before we head out to Edinburgh. But at the same time, though, sometimes the teams that have been playing more are just more in match rhythm. And we've seen ourselves come out cold after some rest. So I suppose it could go either way.
It's a little bit of a weird rhythm just to the games in general, because RGV will have played 10 games when we play them. We will still have only played 7. So 3 games in hand. And depending on their result against Tulsa, we could, with a win, be ahead of or like level on points with them with 3 games in hand. So there's a little bit of an odd timing component here, but just emphasizes how even like fairly early in the season, this is a pretty big matchup for deciding who has the advantage in this divisional title race. RGV, as you said, terrible place to go. Edinburgh has not been a happy hunting ground for Locomotive. And Briam's red card actually was a little bit reminiscent for me of a trip to RGV. I think it was in season 1, where Richie actually was sent off in a pretty poor loss out there at HEB Park for Locomotive. So definitely not looking forward to going back out there, and especially with this RGV team in the form and maybe feeling the confidence that they are this season, especially at home.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see who plays opposite Nick in that other 8 role. I think you can make a case for Chapa. Would need that work rate, but also maybe a little bit more the quality of Jose Aguinaga. So, yeah.
Speaking of the lineup, what do you guys think in terms of how Locomotive attacked this one? Obviously, a big break before this match, but then kind of back into a normal rhythm afterwards with a game just a few days later against New Mexico United. So how do you think Mark approaches this one with the travel out to Edinburgh and then that home match just 4 days later against New Mexico?
For me, I think that it's important to, if you have to say, for one game you have like an A squad and another game you have a B squad. For me, I think the RGV game is where you need that A squad. Just because we do have such a hard time out there. And in this case, I think that's going to turn into what we saw, I think, kind of similar to the lineup we saw against Indy, in that I would like to see Diego and Dylan on the field at the same time. Except in that game, we were without a striker. We only played Lucho as the recognized striker. But I think that we'll have Lucho and our own or Aiden, one of the two. But Richie, Dylan, Diego, and Nick probably. I just think it's another one of those games where we just need to get out there and get that early goal and kind of hunker down at that point. Obviously more than one goal is preferable, but on the road at that stadium, if we can get one and sit back and keep a clean sheet, or maybe even concede one and come home with the 1 point, that would be a good result.
I'm thinking lineup wise, and I'm thinking about how bad the timing of the Rebellon red card is, because the amount of space at HEB Park is massive, and closing down that or occupying that space, Bryan is like the player that comes to mind in midfield that can just take up a lot of space and close people down. And I do worry, not worry about Chapa specifically because obviously he's a quality player. He puts himself about. I think same with Agi Naga. They're quality players, but that work rate from Bryan is so just next level. And I just think about the cavernous spaces at HEB Park and the potential problems that RGV could cause just by spreading the play and getting us kind of out of our normal diamond shape and occupying those wide areas. It could be a little bit difficult to deal with. What do you think about how we approach this one tactically, Mikka?
Yeah, no, I think the concern of the space at that giant pitch and not having Bryan is very fair. Because, I mean, Bryan walked so Macca could run. I mean, Macca gets to make those marauding runs because he's got that cover if need be. And, you know, we had a question earlier from one of our listeners, will Macca continue scoring? Well, that's only if he gets close enough. And I wonder if he'll be asked to be a bit more conservative in this one, given that he won't have that same support down that right flank with Bryan out. So it's an interesting one. As for like the lineup overall, I think I'm inclined to agree with Christian. I think a lineup similar to what we saw with Indy would maybe do the trick. I think Mahrez and Luna together could, if assuming Mahrez is back from illness and Luna's not too fatigued. I mean, shouldn't be. It'll be quite some time before that match. I think that would be really smart to play both of them because it's going to give two creative issues for RGV, and we know RGV can concede. So I mean their differential is not great despite being up there. I think they've conceded like 8 goals or something like that. So I mean they will. That's more than double ours. So they will give up chances and give up big chances if you pressure them. So I think that two kind of pressing agents running off Lucho would really do well. But yeah, Bryan's that's just really poor timing. And I guess it remains to be seen if that's suspensions for more than just one game, because without him for New Mexico, it's also kind of bad too. So
yeah.
It's interesting you talk about their goal scoring, because that GD is saved by a Hat and Elvis ammo hat trick against Miami, but besides that, they only have one other multi-goal scoring game. So again, very similar to us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think Christian, your shout was season 1 Locomotive for how RGV are now. So they're living up to that at the moment.
Still waiting for our first hat trick, though.
Yeah,
we
true.
haven't had one, huh? Holy shit.
Nope. One day.
Wait, we haven't?
No, I'm like 99% sure.
But...
So many braces. Oh man. Wow. Well, that could be a hell of a pick'em prediction, which we head into. We head into now. We need to make our picks for the RGV game. Obviously, long way to go, and you don't get the benefit of seeing how RGV play against Tulsa prior to making these. So, Christian, first and foremost, I guess, where do we stand, and then we can, I guess, make our picks from there.
Last time we visited this was after the Indy game and before Colorado Springs. So in that match, it was zeros across the board. If you remember, that match ended with a 1-1 draw. None of us predicted a draw. Phil, you predicted a 2-0 win. Mikka 2-0. Austin 2-0. Myself 1-0. And none of us predicted the goal scorer, which was... Who am I not remembering? Macca. None of us predicted a Macca goal, so 0 points across the board. And then we, even in our group chat, we were slacking last week, guys. We neglected to make picks for the Monarchs game, so that's a scratch there. So that leaves us in the same place as we were a couple weeks ago. Phil with 2 points at the bottom. Austin following with 3. Mikka in second place with 4. And myself with 5.
Fixed.
Well, I guess that makes me up first. And this is a tough one. This is a tough one to pick because I guess at home, RGV are undefeated, right? At home.
No, I think they have 1 loss at home. Am I mistaken? I mean, their home record is really good, to be fair, but I think.
Oh, they did lose to Austin. Yeah. Okay. 2-1. Yeah. I'm actually. I mean, we'll see how they shape up against Tulsa here on Friday, but I don't know. I'll get a little bullish about Locomotive's chance against the Toros. No.
Cow catcher, yes.
Yeah, no, I'll go. I'll go for the same score line, 2-1. I'll keep us there, and I will say Lucho gets one in this one. I think he was showing all of the right things to get a goal in the last game, and I think he just carries on from where he left off and actually beats Tyler Derrick on this occasion.
All right, Mikka.
I kind of stunned on their defense, but I still think for some reason I think we're only going to score the 1 goal. I'll say 1-0. Who do I have scoring? I think Nick Ross. I'm liking the shape of the shots lately, and I think he's due another one. So I think Nick Ross scores the lone goal in the winner, and we keep a clean sheet. Brave assumption, I know, but I'm going with it.
So I have a very boring pick. I'm concerned that it's going to come out to a 0-0 draw. I haven't quite forgotten the fact that although we did win against them here, it was off a I'll call it lucky or fluky, whatever. The 18-second or however long it took Lucho to score that first goal. And after that, we had 1 shot on target the whole game. So the fact that we came away with that win is not quite reflective of the game itself. So I think consistent with that, and we don't get that lucky goal early on, and I think 0-0 is going to be what we see next Wednesday.
All right. Well, there you have it. We make our picks each match normally when we don't miss, but yeah. So we'll see how this one shakes out. It'll be interesting to see if Locomotive can continue their unbeaten run, which stretches back all the way to last season in the regular season. And yeah, it'll be a tough match out in Southeast Texas, but we'll see how it goes. And Locomotive hoping to get one over RGV on the road. Guys, we had a couple of listener questions to round this one out, and the first came from @ebout27. Looking at the schedule, when do you predict our unbeaten run will come to an end? Or are we in store for an invincible season?
I mean, we might have been until you said it.
Has I wonder, has there ever been an invincible season in American soccer?
Probably not.
That's a trivia question. I challenge our listeners to find out. No, I don't think it'll be an invincible season. I mean, these next two matches are big banana peels if we're not careful.
Yeah.
Again, we do have some of that rest, but as we've seen in the past, when we think we have the advantage as far as the fixture congestion is concerned, we come out flat. So I'm a little concerned about that going into, obviously, the game away against the division leaders and then following that up at home against our big rivals. So these next two ones could possibly spell the end of the run. But obviously, I don't wish that into existence, but just being realistic, these are opportunities to pick up points as much as drop them, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the moral of the story is like each of these games, you could go down the list and there's no team on Locomotive's schedule that you say, like, I don't see how we're winning that. Like, I think every single team that we play the rest of this year is beatable and has shown as such thus far this season. I think equally, though, a lot of our games are extremely even and a lot of the margins are pretty thin. So there's, if we were blowing every team out by these like big margins, I might be more inclined to say we were capable of something like that. But I think we're a refereeing decision, shanked clearance, whatever, like away from drawing or losing some of these games that we've won so far. So I think first and foremost, we just have to focus on being more consistent in front of goal, and hopefully the rest follows. But the last question as we close things out, guys, was from @BLT Gamers, and this is more general question. What type of soccer stadium do you wish we would get in the future? We've seen a lot of different approaches in American soccer, especially to building stadiums in MLS or USL. What sort of style do you hope that Locomotive can get when they build their stadium eventually?
I think it's a really fitting question for the trip that we're about to take to RGV. I'm a big fan of HEB Park. I mean, it can be pretty cavernous sometimes on TV and looks bigger than perhaps it should be for a club their size, but I do like the layout. It looks very professional. It looks very top flight, I guess you could say. The pitch is very nice.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like steep seating. I think it's really great for sound and atmosphere. I think of not only RGV but like Sac Republic. The wall behind their keeper is incredible. So yeah, I would love something. I mean, steep seating and seating very close to the pitch. I think those are two very important things. But I think I'd be just grateful in general if we ever got a soccer specific stadium for Locomotive, because I mean, Lord knows our play deserves it.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of the angles leave something to be desired at Southwest University Park. But for a baseball park, it's not horrible.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit biased, but I really like the San Antonio FC stadium as well. And then for a while when I was living there, that's when they were in talks to get an MLS team, and so there were like renderings drawn up because they would have to improve the stadium, and so those are really cool. It's kind of like that, like, I don't know what the word is, like a dome but not quite, kind of an feeling kind of thing, but like a rim on the outside. I don't know what the right words for that is, but I like it, and I like the area surrounding it. There is a lot of just a lot of space, a lot of open space for like tailgating and stuff. When they were the Scorpions, I went to a couple of the tailgates that the supporters group had there, and they were all the opportunity to do that would be really cool. I think that's something that's missing from Southwest University Park, is a good place to gather, within a reasonable distance of the stadium. So as long as it had that, I think that would be a vast improvement too.
Yeah, the stylistically, I think, Mika, I echo your sentiments. The other place that comes to mind that I've been is San Jose Earthquakes Stadium of the Avaya. It's similar to HEB Park in having that steep like terraces, I guess you would say, and then the only thing that I wouldn't copy about San Jose is I would not have an open end, because I think, like you said, for noise and all of that, I think an actually underrated stadium in the US at least, and maybe it was ahead of its time, is actually Red Bull Arena. It's actually a really nice stadium for Red Bull being kind of a meme or whatever, and the fact that it is out, away from New York, I guess, out in Harrison, New Jersey.
I used to take the train from Red Bull Arena every day to get to class. I parked right across, and match days were hell. So I'm trying to vie for a spot with all the fans. But yeah, no, that's a shout. That's a very European stadium.
Yeah.
Like it's nice. It needs some updating, but
sure.
It's nice.
And the way it's enclosed and like the amount of sound that can be generated in there, I think is just cool. So I would hope it might seem like a nothing feature, or, hey, why are you so wrapped around the axle about it? But in El Paso, I think everybody can agree the stands need to be covered. Like in the European style, you need to have some kind of cover for the stands, because those match days get brutal if you're in an area that's not in the shade, if it's prior to sundown.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I think we're all kind of starved for news in terms of like any sort of developments. I think by now we were all kind of expecting there to be some concrete movement on the stadium, and as of right now, it does seem like they're playing a little bit of a waiting game to see what Mountain Star does with Bravos Stadium and like completion of that prior to any movement with Locomotive. But we'll obviously keep our ears to the ground and keep anyone posted of any developments. I'm sure it'll be big news when it comes through. But yeah, we'll see if it's something that takes off sooner than later. But I think we're all antsy about getting a home for Locomotive, because, as you said, they do deserve it. So I think that just about brings us to the end of the episode. If you guys have enjoyed, you can subscribe to the podcast on any major podcast platform, and you can follow us on socials at Seriously Loco, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find us all over. And we will be back after the RGV match. And until then, stay loco.